Greetings, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. I'm back, and now let's continue our look at Star Trek Deep Space Nine Season 6 with Behind the Lines. The USS Defiant and her crew are now operating out of Starbase 375, conducting short-range missions into Dominion space. In a ritual that's evolved over time, Captain Benjamin Sisko takes the discharged power cell that had been used in the phaser array and lays it on a rack on the mess hall wall. And makes a short speech. Everyone applauds. Admiral William Ross arrives at the mess hall and interrupts to tell Sisko that Starfleet Intelligence has discovered a massive sensor array near a Golos cluster, which explains the Dominion's uncanny ability to always know where Federation starships are. It can detect ships from 5 sectors away. Ross orders Sisko to come up with an attack plan and on this by 0800 the next morning. On Terek Nor, the Dominion-occupied name for Deep Space Nine, Rom and Michikir have arranged to put Cardassian officer Damar's pad into the possession of the Jem'Hadar. In it, Damar proposes poisoning the last ration of Ketracel White. Because of the Dominion lines for the Chemical Quadrant don't open up, the Jem'Hadar will run amok after all the white is gone. While Kir and Rom observe on the second level of the bar, some Jem'Hadar confront Damar and Quarks and a riot breaks out, which is more than what Kir and Rom had hoped. In the aftermath of the bar fight, which has left some fatalities, Gul Dukat and William argue about how the unfortunate situation arose, Leash defending his own. William tells Dukat that the two of them must look like allies in front of their subordinates. Odo suggests getting everyone out of the bar. William agrees. Odo continues to look around himself alertly. On Starbase 375 at 0800, Sisko knows that the Dominion's Argolis array can detect cloaked ships up to 2 light years away and proposes approaching the array through the Argolis cluster itself. With the gravimetric distortions and gravimetric shear, it will be difficult, but he's confident the Defiant's crew can manage it, given that Jadzia Dax has experience in studying protostar clusters and knows what to look for. Admiral Ross approves the plan. The Defiant will leave as soon as current repairs are complete. Back on the station, Odo confronts Kira over the Damar pad operation. He reminds her that at the last Resistance meeting, he vetoed the idea to give Damar's pad to the Jem'Hadar. But Kira tells him that after he'd immediately dismissed the idea and walked out. She, Jake, and Rom discussed it further and decided it was worth doing, and Kira is pleased that it worked even better than expected. Odo reminds her that if Dukat found out that she was behind it, he used an excuse to throw all the Bajorans off the station when he's doing what he can to make sure Bajor survives the war, which the Federation Alliance is losing. Kira accuses Odo of taking his role on the station's ruling council too seriously, as they were generally interested in the smooth operation of the station than defeating the Dominion. But when asked, tells him she isn't questioning his loyalty. The female changing enters and asks Kira to leave. Odo asks what she's doing so far from home. The female changeling explains that she became trapped in the Alpha Quadrant because of the minefield which has been blocking the wormhole, and that she needs to see others of her kind. She and Odo argue over their past, and Odo specifically mentions the punishment he received from her over a year earlier. She replies that the past is over. Odo asks about the present, given that she and the Dominion are currently waging a war against his home. The female changeling plainly tells Odo that the Alpha Quadrant is not his home, and that he belongs to his own kind. Back on Starbase 375, Admiral Ross informs Sisko that Captain Bennett has been promoted to command of the 7th Tactical Wing, and that Sisko is to replace her immediately as adjutant. Accordingly, Jadzia Dax will now captain the Defiant, beginning with her taking charge of the mission to destroy the Argolis array. Ross orders Sisko to review some tactical reports and present an opinion on the bullying operation 0600. After a meeting of the ruling council concludes, the female changeling enters. She's most concerned about the minefield, and this is the first thing she says to Dukat. William, of course, supports her and adds his own opinion on the matter, saying dozens of ships are waiting. Dukat brushes it off, saying that even without reinforcements of the Gamma Quadrant, they are still winning the war. She demands to be brought down, and William instantly submits and removes himself from her presence. The female changeling turns to Odo, asking to welcome him back to his quarters. She asks him to talk about their first discussion on the Founder's homeworld, and asks the strange solid behavior that he has put up with all the time. They go to Odo's quarters. Without probing questions, she wants Odo to admit that he's in love with Kira, and she concludes that and that is the reason that Odo remains with the solids. He abandons himself in the torture of his unrequited love. The female changeling is sympathetic, and she offers to Link, saying that is what Odo really needs. They link. Sometime later, Kira finds Odo in his quarters. He seems to be in another world but at peace. He admits to linking with the female changing to Kira, who becomes quite angry. Odo tries to reassure her and tells her that linking is not about information exchange, which might give away her resistance cell. It is about thought, informed, and feeling. Kira says it is about manipulation. She tells Odo that the female changeling is not trustworthy. Odo thinks that perhaps he can convince her to call off the war. He admits that he is mostly just cares about himself and his people. Kira understands this but says that now is not the time for self-reflection. Odo promises not to link with her again, at least not until the war is over. Sisko visits the bridge of the Defiant and has an uncomfortable conversation with Dax, who was sitting in the captain's chair overseeing the repairs. Later, after he leaves the ship and returns to the starbase, Sisko watches through a window as the Defiant leaves without him. Damar, acting more for himself than he usually does, orders about 2327 Kanar from Quark. He can afford it now that he's been promoted to Gull. Quark knows that Damar knows something important and manages, eventually, to ferret out with free drinks. Later, an obviously drunk Quark intrudes on Kira's resistance cell meeting. Jake, Rom, and Odo are also there. Quark has had enough of the Dominion Cardassians. In tears, he says he wants the Federation back. He wants to sell root beer again. When he's done with the self-pity, Quark says that Damar has found a way to deactivate the self-replicating mines and to come to start field tests right away. Sobering up, Quark says that the way to deactivate the mines has something to do with the deflector array. Ron figures that the secret is an anti-graviton beam, which the deflector array could be reconfigured to generate. There's one way to disable the deflector array, by accessing the electroplasma system feed and overloading the waveguide. Beginning to the UPS feed will set off an alarm, as it is in a secured conduit. Odo says that he can take the alarms off for 5 minutes by way of a security diagnostic. The schedule is for exactly 0800 the next morning. The Defiant has been gone for over 16 hours. Back on Starbase 375, Sisko, who was able to get some sleep, speaks their communications terminals in his office to Worf, who's carrying aboard the IKS Rotaran. Worf is anxious also to hear of the status of the Defiant, yet his fiancée Dax is captaining the ship. Sisko reassures Worf that she will bring the ship home and adds that there was no way Dax would miss her own wedding. After terminating communications with Worf, Admiral stops by Sisko's office, imploring him to get some sleep. Sisko says that he will not be able to sleep so long as the Defiant is still out there. Russ tells him to get some rest as Sisko's going to have to get used to this assignment. The Defiant will be going on a lot of missions without him and he will have to get used to it. On Terra Knor, Odo has a lot of questions for the female changeling. She repeats that words are insufficient and clumsy. She urges Odo to link with her. He resists at first, but eventually succumbs. Sorry, that was my cat meowing there. Kira goes to check on Odo in his office, but he's not there. She randomly tries to reach Odo via combadge, but he is entering the link with the female changeling and doesn't answer. The time was 0759 hours. Secure then attempts to warn Rom to abort the plan, but Damar interrupts wanting to go over a personnel report. Kira makes her excuses and rushes out of the security office, tries to warn Rom not to open the panel, but she's an instant too late. Rom opens up the hatch to the secure conduit and set off the security alarms. Kira tells me out there she sees Damar's security force scramble to investigate the security breach. The rocket crawls back to her cave room and opens the outer hatch, only to be pulled out of the conduit by Damar and placed under arrest. The Defiant returns to Starbase 375 triumphantly. Russ insists to come aboard in order to congratulate the crew. As acting captain of the mission, Dax performs a power cell ritual just like Sisko had earlier. Sisko realizes that they are a good crew and manage flying without him. Kira storms out a corridor and bangs on Odo's door panel, beyond furious. In his quarters, she yells to Odo that he let everyone down. She asks him if he forgot, but he says no. It just didn't seem to matter. Kira furiously tells her former friend that Rom was in a holding cell being interrogated. They were both counting on him, and said Odo had just handed the Alpha Quadrant to the Dominion. What does he have to say for himself? But Odo was elsewhere, mentally and emotionally. In the link, he says nothing else matters. Things mattered to him once, but not any longer. Kira can never understand. She's a solid. Kira, realizing that she's lost Odo to the link, leaves. When she's gone, the female changeling appears from behind a wall. She notices that Odo looks troubled and asks, "Did she upset you?" Odo thinks for a moment, looking at the doorway. "No, not really." Satisfied, the changeling remarks, "Ah. Odo, I think you're... Oh boy, you're definitely some hot water, buddy." So let's take a look at some background information from this episode. The original title for the episode was Life During Wartime. Originally, the B story of this episode was based on the 1930 Howard Hawks film The Dawn Patrol. The major theme of the movie is that of a reluctant commander being forced to send untrained troops into the field, and the mortal turmoil it causes him. However, when Ira Stevenberg read Echevarria's script, he felt that it didn't work, because the B story had become too important and felt like it should be the A story. As such, Echevarria dropped the story entirely and replaced it with the B story involving Dax. She's given Commander Leosis to find and discovers that she loves combat. According to Echevarria, she gets into it too far and becomes Padden. Neither Baird nor Echevarria himself were happy with the story, however. Ultimately, quote, "We reinvented it yet again, making a much smaller, quieter little story. When you're just asked to put yourself in Cisco's shoes and see how hard it must be for him to sit back and send his friends to war," end quote. Odo's original role in this episode was also quite different from how it ultimately turned out. In Echevarria's first draft, Odo becomes so involved with the female changeling that he allows his need for order to consume and blind him, and actively tries to end the resistance movement. Indeed, he's the one who arrests Rom. Neither Echevarria nor Bear were happy with this turn in Odo's character, however. Ultimately, Echevarria decided to alter the script so that Odo commits, quote, "a sin of omission, not a sin of commission." The old Catholic maxim, a sin of omission. Out of Odo's carelessness and his obsession with the female shapeshifter, he doesn't deliver on what he's supposed to do. And when he's confronted with it, he realizes that he doesn't care that much. It doesn't seem important, end quote. It is the first time we see the new Admiralty uniforms. They now match regular uniforms, and thus, the transition to a more militarized Starfleet is complete. The reason the writers introduced Damar's fondness for Kanar in this episode is because they wanted to hint to the audience that something's wrong with them at the surface. It says, Beimler explains, quote, "He's become a real bad guy, but he's drinking, and you want to know why. He's not drinking because he's an alcoholic. He's drinking because he has a conscience. But something he doesn't want to deal with. He knows he can't deal with the Dominion is wrong, and so he's drinking," end quote. During the 7th season, the writers would develop Damar's character in similar manner to how they developed character Dukat during the 3rd and 4th seasons, and how they developed Kai Wynn towards the end of the 5th season, i.e. his role as villain would be rendered more ambiguous and would seemingly be on the path to redemption. Unlike Dukat and Wynn, however, Damar would complete the journey to redemption and would ultimately become one of the most important figures in ensuring the Federation's victory in the Dominion War. While the writers didn't intend for the interaction between Odo and the female changing to be sexual in nature, Bear later conceded, quote, "It makes a certain amount of sense," end quote. Director LeVar Burton commented, quote, "Those are love scenes. She was seducing him. Simple, straight up, plain and simple," end quote. Also, according to an original law, quote, "I think it has some kind of sexual implications. It is definitely a very sensual experience. For Odo, it's the absolute consummation of a kind of peace that he can't have," end quote. Armin Shimerman considers this to be an important episode in the development of Quark. Concerning his speech in Time to Stand, where points out that for the Princess Dominion isn't all that bad, Sherman says, quote, "Quark was one of those deluded people who thought, this is fine, I get to do what we want to do, and didn't realize that liberty was more important than creature comforts. But he learns, and I was very appreciative for that aspect of the arc. Like in every main character, Quark has to go through some turmoil before he realizes the truth," end quote. Sloane Jensen makes her first appearance as the female changeling since the season 4 finale Broken Link. In that episode, Odo infected the Great Link with the morphogenic virus he was affected both by Section 31 and Homefront. If the virus was deactivated, one would become a solid and broken link, and it seems likely that the female changeling ray affects him when they link. This explains why she begins to exhibit symptoms earlier than he. Damar's promoted from the rank of Glenn to Gull in this episode. When Rom tries to sabotage the deflector array, he opens an alarmed hatch to secure conduit. The hatch is labeled A51 Restricted Area, and likely to the Area 51 U.S. Air Force Flight Test Center at Groom Lake, Nevada. So I think this episode is kind of interesting, and yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I really don't like that female changeling at all, so yeah. So overall I give Behind the Lines 4 warp cores out of 5. Anyway, tune in next week till next episode, Favor the Bold. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.